Today a little bit, I know that I want to be cognizant of your time. What we're going to go over, new media, talk about some forms of media, the difference between some traditional media and some newer forms of media, mobile, social, digital, some new ideas. I'm going to show you some cool things that we have done as an agency, and I'm going to show you some cool things that are happening outside of Atlanta. And then a new experience, which is hopefully helping you find a new experience in digital marketing, social media, etc. So a little bit more about myself. I was basically in your seat in 2006. I was up the road in Athens, Georgia, at the University of Georgia. Graduated with a degree in advertising and new media. And new media, this is a plug straight to Pegasus, new media was essentially the Pegasus of UGA. So very similar program, interdisciplinary program, worked on communications and PR and technology analytics. So I would say that the experience that I had at MI directly led me to where I am now and the jobs that I got. After graduation, I worked at an agency called New Run until about 2008, and around 2009 got the itch, which started from Steve Jobs, basically, that mobile was going to be huge. And so we were literally, my friend and I, who's now my business partner, we were watching Steve Jobs' keynote when he's announcing the first iPhone. And, jaws just dropped. Like, this thing is going to be huge. It started the idea of, what could we go from there? And started Vert, which is the agency that I'm at now. Oh no, we must, a little bit more about me. This is the obligatory, my wife told me I had to put it in here. This is Parker, my 5-month-old yellow lab. So if you are wondering why I am stressed, it's because I have a little puppy at home. So why did I start Vert? I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. Even as a kid, I would trade baseball cards and pretty much do anything to make a dime. Not in a bad sense, but in a good sense. And did anybody have Sports Illustrated for kids cards? Am I too old? Anyone?
You're too young.
Everybody too young. Well, this was, when I was in high school, I went through some of my old Sports Illustrated for kids cards, and I found this one. It was a Tiger Woods card. And Topps makes baseball cards, Upper Deck makes baseball cards, but nobody makes a golf card. So looking through, the golfer enthusiasts or golf enthusiasts actually considered this card his rookie card. I had no idea. I put this thing on eBay. Guess how much it sold for? I need a guess. $1,000. So I quickly learned, I was like, goodness, I have this market that I can tap with eBay. What are some other things that I could sell? So I bought and sold cards and basically started my first online business, which was an eBay business in 2001, long time ago. Saw the same opportunity for social and mobile. And this chart represents the social media spend from 2011 to 2016. And personally, career-wise, monetarily, this chart shows good things because companies are going to be investing more in social media marketing, and then the agency fees or the companies are going to pay a company like ours to create those campaigns and maintain those campaigns. So this is one of the main reasons that I started Vert. Who we are. We are a 11-person shop that's located down in the Old 4th Ward. So if you see here, I think it's a 17-minute drive from right here. If you ever want to come see us, we're right off Freedom Parkway by the MLK Center. Feel free to stop by any time. And these are some of the clients that we work with. Some you've probably heard of, like IHG. They own Holiday Inn and Holiday Inn Express and Crown Plaza and Hotel Indigo. We helped launch Scout Mob. So if you guys use Scout Mob on your phone or have done any of the daily deals, we helped launch their mobile product. We've done some work with Heineken, if you like beer, and we've done work with Turner if you like their TV shows. So a range, our specialty is really mobile, social, digital, but as far as the clients that we work with, it's across the board in several different verticals, from hospitality, and I can thank Todd and Debbie for this. We actually get to do work for Oglethorpe and for the adult education program. So Oglethorpe is one of our clients, and we thank you guys for that. Some of the things that we do, we are structured as mobile and social digital, but within that, these are the actual specialties or capabilities that we have. And on the social media front, that means things like creating content. The same way that Pegasus, you guys are creating content for Oglethorpe, we are doing that on behalf of multiple different brands for Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, etc. We're actually coming up with promotions, so the ideas behind it, not just the words, but what are the offers and what's the reason to share something. On the paid media front is all these social channels have given us avenues and opportunities to spend money, to promote different brands. So there's organic means of social media, and then there's the paid means of social media. So we specialize in that. And then on the development front, which is the bottom tier, bottom quadrant, we're actually building mobile applications and writing the code from the ground up. So it's all these disciplines that come into what Vert does, which is an agency that's built for the world of new media. Where things are going, where a lot of old traditional models probably wouldn't work in this day and age, and I'm going to highlight some of those examples. So what do I do? I don't really know, but I am, what is an emerging media strategist? I promise you I made up that name. Probably if you looked on LinkedIn, there aren't too many other emerging media strategists out there. Does anybody want to be an emerging media strategist? Okay, so we got two. We got three. We have 3 emerging media strategists. So what do I literally do? People ask me all the time. I'm developing plans. It's a lot of strategic thinking first. There's not a lot of creative or visuals at the very beginning of it. So it's coming up with that. Keeping up with trends. It's surprising that we get paid to read the news and communicate what is popular back to our clients, because they just want to be on the forefront of what's going on. So if you personally enjoy just reading the hottest, the coolest, the best, an emerging media strategist or that similar role would be something that you would love years down the road. We come up with cool marketing campaigns. I code Facebook apps and games and manage online communities, and again, on the paid side, buying media plans across dozens and dozens of different sites. So, my mom, I talk to her several times a week. She probably doesn't know a lick of what I do, and you guys now know more about what I do on a daily basis than my mom does. So I want to know what you guys know about new media, and who uses Snapchat? All right, cool, everyone. What do you think, as of November 2013, the stat just came out, how many snaps per day are sent? And the closest one gets a cool koozie that says koozies are the new business cards. So you can all right, so guesses. What's that?
1 million.
1 million.
9 billion.
Somewhere between those two.
2 billion?
2 billion?
5 billion.
5 million?
6.5 billion.
Not that. The answer is 350 million. So that is, if you think about it, say there's 300 million people in the United States, 350 million snaps or pictures are sent via Snapchat every day. It's no surprise that they turned down a $3 billion offer from Facebook earlier this week, because if you think about it, how you can monetize 350 million snaps, just imagine if that doubled and tripled, and it will, as Snapchat continues to grow. Second one, apologize for the text. How many, this is next year, in the US, how many mobile phone internet users will there be? So this isn't mobile phones, we're not talking about those old flip phones. We're talking about the phones that most of us probably carry, iPhones, Androids, Nokia devices. How many internet phones in the US next year?
I'd say probably about 75% to 80% of users will probably have a smartphone by next year.
I'd say 92%.
And what does that equate to in the number of people?
300 million.
300 million?
I'd say 275.
The answer is 162. Who said 150?
I was about to say 150.
Someone said 150. So, what does this number mean? Rewind 10 years. That number was 0. 0 phones were getting on the internet to do things. And in 14 years, well, in 2014 really, we're up to 162 million people that you can touch with a device in your pocket. So if there's one thing I tell you today, is that is the biggest change, the biggest fundamental change that's going on right now is communication, people, marketing, advertising, everything is going mobile. So last question. This is our Twitter. This is a money question. So Twitter came out with their initial public offering last week. People went crazy. So in market cap, so this is not necessarily the share price. In market cap, how much was Twitter worth on the New York Stock Exchange at 3:30? I did this today at 3:36. So at 3:36, how much is Twitter worth?
A lot.
That's actually really close.
5 billion?
500 million.
Somewhere in between those two.
1 billion.
145 million.
The answer, 22.23 billion. So that is you. So what in the world does this mean is, think 5 years ago, one tweet was sent by the founders of Twitter. And it's 140 characters of text. And in less than 5 years, they took a company that has tweets and texts and converted it to $22.5 billion worth of value in the company. Very important, and mobile is going to be one of those underlying things that fall into this because most of the people, and I'm sure all you guys are using it. Who doesn't use Twitter? You guys do not use Twitter. That's a huge. This is backwards. Why not? Why don't we use Twitter?
I don't have a need for it. I don't have the need, but I don't have the time.
You don't have the time?
I have no friends that will follow me.
Well, that's fine. You don't need friends to be on Twitter. Are you on Twitter?
No, and part of it, I'm in the same camp. I don't have anyone that I would follow or anything that I want people to follow me on. I don't have anything to contribute. But a bigger factor as to why I don't follow that is there's kind of a stigmatization against it, it's a lot of egocentric people talking to themselves in a way. And I'd like to stay away from that kind of mindset. So there are certain personality types where that doesn't mesh well with the kind of social interaction that I prefer. I realize I'm outside of that market, and I'm probably not targeted by market specialists.
Although I don't use it, I do know that it's a lot like LinkedIn, and you can follow groups that have informational media that can relate to your industry.
I don't have an industry right now.
But you will have an
Eventually.
industry. That's why you're in school.
And I'm not here to argue on either side. It is, as a marketer and as brands think about communication and technology, the market and the population on Twitter is too great for us to ignore, which is the reason that we would talk about it. But I would encourage you, any topic you're interested in, whether it's fishing or literature or
Sword fighting.
The amount of information that you can learn from other people on Twitter just by doing a simple keyword search on sword fighting probably will boggle your mind. But I'm not here to sell Twitter, that's not my job.
I'm doing a fine job of it.
What's your commission?
Ask me why I don't like Twitter, I can give you an equal answer, that's going to be it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what I call traditional media compared to some of the newer forms of media. And the best way to do it is to look at the companies that are taking over these spaces. So when I grew up, I listened to 99X on the radio and loved it. And anywhere I went in the car, I was listening to 99X. Now, newer forms of media have been pretty much replaced, other than drive time in the car and some work time, by internet radio. So we're talking Pandora, Spotify, and iTunes radio that came out. And what's cool is, again, as a marketer, the things that have changed since then is look at how bizarre yet interactive an advertising experience can be when it's on Pandora. So there are a lot of different elements going on, and this is called a homepage takeover ad on Pandora, and there's an audio piece that you're going to hear. There's a takeover of the screen that you see on the right, and the tile that's in the middle is actually all branded by Pepto-Bismol. So if you think about it, the 99X days, is you were sitting there and you had an audio piece, just audio. And these newer forms of media can now, they're combining audio, combining visuals, combining interactivity. If I wanted to, I could have social actions built into this to automatically share this Pepto-Bismol if I wanted to Facebook, Twitter, etc. So same thing with video. Video to me is what used to be everything on TV, and the content has drastically changed, but where we're viewing those things have also drastically changed. So video to us on a newer media side or social media would be anything for YouTube, Hulu, which is your premium video channels, or Umi, which is an ad network. So what does a new video experience look like? This was the homepage takeover today for Chobani. So imagine an ad on TV a few years ago. You have 15 seconds. You have 30 seconds to deliver that spot. You're done. That is over. But with YouTube, we get that video spot that actually played here in this banner, right up there, and then directly took me into this really cool interactive experience where I can look at every single Chobani flavor that exists out there. Do you guys eat Chobani? Is anybody else addicted to it?
Yeah.
You pay $1 for Chobani when you can get the Kroger brand for 25 cents. I don't understand it, but they figured something else out. So another thing, drastic changes coming across in directory listings. So rewind 10 years, you had the Yellow Pages. It was the go-to. Rewind 20 years, you had the Yellow Pages. Go-to place if you wanted to contact any local business. Fast forward today, we have Yelp, we have Foursquare, we have Google Places. And it's just ridiculous the amounts of information that we can get from a business listing on Yelp. And I would say any restaurant that I'm going to spend more than $8, I'm checking Yelp beforehand, just to make sure that it's a relevant experience, that people say good things about it, that the food isn't either E. coli or salmonella. And I don't know, are you guys equally enthused about Yelp? Yes? No?
It's
20 years.
helpful. It can be, like most of the time, I'll go to Google and it'll pull up the Yelp page
Yeah.
on its own.
Yep.
And so that's how I end up getting to Yelp a lot of the time.
I get through Yelp through Grubhub.
Yep. And so part of what we do at Vert is making sure that a lot of these listings, and it's the bare bones, it's the things that you need to do, is making sure that businesses are listed properly in all these different places. So we're the agency of record for Taco Mac. Anytime you're looking for Taco Mac on Google or Yellow Pages or Google Places or Yelp, we are making sure that Taco Mac is represented, the brand is carried across on all these newer media channels. And this last category, I'm calling it text. It certainly isn't fair to call it text, but in the old days, we call it newspapers. New, it's Tumblr, it's Twitter, it's our WordPress blogs. And this is a funny example, but a brand that is killing it on Tumblr is Denny's. You would never think, but Denny's does a great job of, here they're posting pictures of their pancakes. If you ever get really bored and want to look for a Tumblr case study for any of your communications classes, look up Denny's, because it's actually a pretty funny experience. So that's how I'm looking at some of the older forms of marketing compared to the newer forms of marketing. I want to take you through some of the newer ideas or newer things that we're seeing that are around targeting. And with all social and digital and mobile technology, the targeting is the holy grail that allows us to reach consumers like we haven't been able to before. So the first is keyword targeting. Do you guys use Google a lot? Every day?
Every day.
All right, does anyone not use Google? This is a fun question. Okay, cool. As marketers, probably the easiest and most simple way to understand targeting is through keyword. It's truly intent-based. If someone is searching for Oglethorpe, we want to show a relevant ad for Oglethorpe University. If somebody is looking for new Nike shoes, we want to make sure, or Nike is going to make sure, that for dang sure their search ad is coming up. So by far the largest form of advertising dollars is going towards search. Search is also increasingly becoming social. So if you look at it, this particular search listing of Oglethorpe, bless you, actually is pulling in Google Places data with the address, with the phone number, and for those of you that have Google Plus profiles, Google is now incorporating your Google Plus social profile into a lot of search listings. So in the future, get in your mind, headspace, that the things that you do on Google Plus and your social networks at some point are going to be searchable to the greater web. So on the personal side, make sure you're keeping a lot of your fun, crazy pictures to yourselves. But on the other side, there's a lot of value that can be extracted through search engines for the content that you're posting on your Google Plus and Facebook pages. So moving along to another form of targeting is retargeting. And have you guys ever been shopping online or gone to an e-commerce site and you put something in that shopping cart and you're like, no, I don't want to buy it right now. Next time, you get on your computer the next day and you see the exact same product. Does that happen to anybody?
Yes.
Does that freak you out? It does? Okay.
Sometimes it's annoying because if you're not necessarily buying something for yourself, like if you're buying a gift for someone that's having a child, it'll come up with all these baby things. It's like, no, not me.
You know you want babies, baby, more stuff.
What's equally as creepy is when somebody else comes to your computer and is shopping for something, and then you come back and you see what they're interested in. But this form is popular. And how it all works is through cookies. So all the cookies, when you're on your browser in Firefox or Chrome and Internet Explorer, all those cookies that are coming into your browser, they're tracking your history of what you're looking for, specific sites that you've been to, specific products. Those cookies are then stored and are passing those to advertisers like us, giving us then the ability to, next time you come to a website, present them with a very relevant retargeted ad. Why do you see this a lot? Just because it works. It works very well and it's very cheap because it limits that subset of people you're reaching to only those individuals that have been to your page or looked at that product in the past. So look out for it. Now that I've talked about it, you'll probably see it a lot more. It happens quite a bit. Next form is, well actually this is very basic, is contextual targeting. And we spend a lot of time getting in the headspace of where people are hanging out online. The easiest example, NBA 2K14 is coming out. Where do you want to put that relevant ad? You want to put that on ESPN. So it's how most advertising has been done for years and years and years. It's contextual, but it's not always the best place because if you think about it, NBA 2K14 doesn't really impact people that might be interested in NHL or golf or any other sports. But as an advertising agency, we're constantly thinking about what is that person's mindset when they're going online, and what are the types of areas or opportunities that we should be showing ads. Another cool thing that Yahoo is one of the best at is behavioral targeting. And if you notice this ad on the right, it's a capital 1, 0 to 60 card over there. And how this works is, I actually did a credit report. I took a credit report 3 or 4 weeks ago to make sure that my credit was up to snuff. Because of that behavior, capital 1 is now retargeting me with ads based on that credit intent behavior. So we're actually getting bucketed as we go through Facebook, as we go through different sites, as we go through Yahoo, based on those behaviors. So not saying anything about us, they don't know our age, they don't know who we are, they don't know my name, but because I've expressed interest in a certain element or a certain type of thing, they're then retargeting me based on those specific behaviors. Next is location. And A few years back, most phones didn't have GPS devices. So now every phone that ships that's going to be an iPhone or Android is going to have a GPS built in. So we can get a lot of really rich data from that, both of where that phone is sitting, if it's in this room, and where you say you are based on checking intent. So a couple examples here is, this is somebody searches for a French restaurant on Foursquare, and there is an ad that shows up for a French restaurant that just happens to be right in your area. The one on the right is even better, is someone checked in at a local pool, which may indicate you probably have kids, you're taking your kids to the pool to hang out, and then a Babies R Us and Toys R Us ad pops up. So again, it's getting in that headspace of what is somebody thinking about as they are navigating these different locations. There we go. Another cool thing is cross-screen targeting. This is something that you'll see popping up more and more, is networks, actual networks such as Fox or CBS or ESPN, for example, are integrating their mobile apps with their TV content. And because they know what time a certain piece of content is running on TV, such as American Idol in this example, when you are on your tablet or on your phone, when you're sitting on the couch watching TV, they can actually sync up that content. So we call that cross-device or cross-screen, is we know that people don't sit and religiously watch TV with 100% focus anymore. People are bouncing in, they're checking Twitter, they're on Facebook. So these types of ideas, Pegasus challenges you to think about crazy things like this, is what could you do to integrate cross-screen experiences like that. Facebook is probably the best at interest-based targeting, and for those Facebook users, I'm sure you've been inundated with these types of ads, but they work, is based on the interests that you have selected when you sign up for Facebook. You go through, I was born on this day, and I live this day, and I'm interested in this, 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 and this. There are different types of ads that show up. So this is one that I pulled from my newsfeed. It's Coin. It's a new tech product. I have a ton of interest in technology and new things, so it only makes sense for this type of ad to show up on my newsfeed. There are even opportunities to do device targeting. So if you are an app company, such as Zynga, or you're making these games like Farmville, and you want to get your app on a specific device, say iOS versus Android, we can target based on those particular devices. So if there's only a game that's made for iOS 7 and won't work on any of those older iOS versions, then we can target, and the content and everything about the ad is only going to be targeted to those particular versions of your OS. And finally, this is the one that makes the most sense, but I just love. Well, no, not this one. I hate this one. This is conquesting. Todd's going to be shaking his head back there like, what in the world is this? Targeting through conquesting is essentially if your brand, your company has a series of competitors. And in this case, I personally, this is my Twitter profile here, follow Oglethorpe. And lo and behold, Mount Washington, or at MW College, has actually targeted me with an ad that says I can learn how to earn my college degree for as little as $19,200. So I can almost guarantee you what they've done is they know that I am somewhat affiliated with Oglethorpe, but they want my business and they want that $19,200 from me, so they're going to show you that ad. Think of it much bigger picture is imagine you're AT&T and you want to go after Verizon customers. You can target anybody that has tweeted about Verizon or tweeted about a Verizon's phone or bought a Verizon phone. So the ability to go after some of those competitors, we call that conquesting, and it's just like a bitter fight to the end, and I don't think it will ever stop.
So would you categorize that better as like a competitive interest targeting?
It would. It's pretty much the same thing. Via conquesting, your targeting profile is going to be a list of your competitors. And I think this one's the last one, is workplace targeting. So I encourage you to sign up for our LinkedIn if you're not. It's by far the easiest thing you can do that's going to help you get a job. But the neat thing is, as employers, individuals can actually do job postings based on specific workplaces, based on specific industries. So as you fill out your LinkedIn profile, you get in that headspace of actually thinking about what is a future or potential employer thinking about looking for. And oftentimes they're going to be putting in keywords or searches themselves, looking for specialties or interests that you're good at. And LinkedIn's made it very easy for both employees and employers to make those connections with some simple keywords. So any questions about that? I just ran through all those very quickly, but there are multiple different ways to target people on social networks and digital. Any questions or thoughts?
I teach a new media and society class, and I've been learning about how the students interact with some new media. And the one thing that I noticed, I had them take a media journal just for a day. They were really, really annoyed with ads and did everything they could to avoid them. And then, so when they started noticing billboards, that was most annoying because there was nothing they could do. There was no function where they could turn off the billboard, But I know that people don't necessarily know the difference between ads and content to some extent. I'm just wondering if a strategy is to try to blur that line.
It is. The concept of those blurred lines is called native advertising. And it is a shift away from blatant ads in your face to ads that look more like the content of the platform it's derived from. Some examples of that would be this promoted tweet. The only difference between the ad here and what is coming across in my feed is this little bitty, there we go. This little thing that says promoted is the only difference between a paid placement and something that comes across that is organic.
Is that required?
It is. It's just an indicator that says this is paid for. And that is very much blurring the lines because most people are not going to know the difference of why that thing is there in the first place. Other sort of relevant native advertising would be Facebook. Anything that's coming across in your newsfeed is, you're getting updates from your friends, you're getting updates from your colleagues, and then a brand injects that, conversation or a post. That is native advertising. People hate it, but it works. And an example that I'm sure your students are going to be calling out soon is Instagram recently started putting ads on their site. People are going to hate it. They are going to despise it. And the comments sort of speak for themselves from what I've seen. But I think all these platforms for us, for the most part, are free. And we will always live in an ad-supported world. Drive down 85, you're not going to get away from billboards. You watch TV, every 4.5 minutes is going to be an ad. So we...
That's what pause is for.
What's that?
That's what pause is for.
True. I think as communications people, all of us is to make sure that the content that we're putting out and the ads that are putting out are relevant. And that's the best way to cut through that clutter, because oftentimes people will seek out advertising. They love a cool ad. They'll go to YouTube and search for it. So if it's interesting enough and it's cool enough, they're going to find it. They're going to find that it's relevant. If it is dull and boring, people are going to hate it, and it's going to annoy their everyday content. Any other questions, thoughts about targeting? Cool. All right, I'm going to take you guys through a case study that we did, and this was fun. And we received an RFP, which is a request for proposal from the Weather Channel. They're here in Atlanta, and the Weather Channel is about as dull and boring of a company you can get. Does anyone watch the Weather Channel on TV?
She's my daughter, by the way.
Todd was back there.
Speed it up, we got a tornado show coming up.
So they came to us and they're like, we want to create buzz about the Weather Channel. And I was like, well, goodness, you know, my grandma she doesn't do anything that's buzzworthy. How are we going to create buzz about the Weather Channel? And a week or a set of programming they had was around tornadoes. They labeled that Tornado Week. We're like, awesome, Tornado Week, great sounding name. Everyone's heard of Shark Week on Discovery Channel. People will sit in their chairs and watch the blood and the sharks and everything. So what are the chances that people get amped up about Tornado Week? We had no idea. So they came to us, and this is a very, very tough ask. No budget, no goals, other than to create some buzz. And so as an agency, we sat down, we got in a room, we're like, what the heck are we going to do? We thought of the idea of creating a tweet-powered tornado. So how this worked, this was the actual microsite that we had. We hired several interns to go sit in the basement at the Weather Channel. In front of them, we put 10 industrial-sized fans that were blowing wind on these interns. Kicker of all this is we set up a live stream, so the whole thing was live streamed for an entire week straight. And then we turned it over to the world, or the community, or Twitter rather, to control the speed of the winds via their tweets. And so all you had to do is, you know, we said, you feel the storm, tweet the hashtag Tornado Week, and we're going to track all those tweets as they came in. As the tweets went up, we're going to increase the style, or the wind speed of these interns. And this is, so the screenshot that I took here, that's when it was 133 miles an hour of wind of these fans blowing on people's faces. Are you guys getting all this? This is a crazy concept.
Yeah, I love it.
So basically we recreated a tornado and subjected them to interns. It's like the craziest thing.
What's
So
the highest speed
this
you
is,
could put on the interns?
what's
Did
that?
you have a limit to the speed that they could?
We did. It was 250 miles.
How close did you get to that?
In all honesty, the wind speed was not accurate. We came up with an algorithm to make it feel or look like it was that fast. It was probably only like 30 or 40 miles an hour. But this is what the room looked like. We had all these fans, and this was live streamed for an entire week straight. It was a lot of fun. Here's the meteorologist. And what was cool about this and what made it truly a social campaign is meteorologists are normally very rigid. They report on science and wind speeds and the EF scale. We had the OCMs, which they're on-camera meteorologists, coming off the set where they're on TV, coming into our wind room and creating just these nerdiest, dorkiest signs because we had all these people interacting on Twitter. So this is one saying, I love Tornado Week. And again, our goal was to create buzz. This thing started building and building and building and building. And the second day, the Today Show actually picked it up. So what started as an original online stunt made its way all the way over to TV. We had Al Roker sitting there talking about Tornado Week to spread the word. And these are some of the tweets that came across. This is more for marketing purposes. This is like a pat on our back, but social media is best. Tweet Tornado Week to turn up the winds at the Weather Channel. And this guy says, quite possibly one of the funniest, strangest, yet captivating marketing campaigns I've seen for Tornado Week. So it was almost the idea itself that made it social in nature, but what I feel was the real kicker that made this is a slight form of people love to torment interns. And they're going to tune in to just about anything to watch that. And so the perception that you're not going to make them go get coffee. You're going to subject them to sitting in front of 240-mile-an-hour winds.
Only one thing better, tormenting bosses.
Well, yeah. Next year, we're going to put the bosses in.
Oh, that would be cool. I'm going to have to watch next year.
We had, and this was not planned at all. If you guys have heard of like the real-time marketing kind of trend, is we had people on Twitter animating and drawing. We never asked them to do this, but they saw this tornado week thing, and we had these animations coming in. They were saying this thing, so we were reposting that. Then we got on BuzzFeed, which is one of my favorite sites if you like looking at cats. Great cat stuff on BuzzFeed. You know, they told everybody, if we get this, if the hashtag tornado week gets 1 million mentions, these interns are going to experience an EF5 tornado. So again, it was just snowballing and snowballing, and ABC picked it up, and Today Show picked it up. And all of this was done on the most shoestring of shoestring budgets that you would imagine. Then we started interacting with other brands. So Cold Stone Creamery, they said, hey, Tornado Week, we heard you're craving an Oreo. How's this Tornado Week? And they actually took a picture of one of their ice creams, and they used our hashtag of Tornado Week. And JCPenney said, hey, Tornado Week interns, you win some, you lose some, good luck. And they referenced one of their windbreakers. So how smart was somebody sitting there in the JCPenney to be able to react in real time to a campaign that we're doing? And they actually got some artificial buzz off of JCPenney's windbreakers. And the best of the best was Krispy Kreme. Krispy Kreme, because they're based, I think they're based here in Atlanta, or a couple stores here, they sent a whole bunch of Krispy Kreme donuts over to the interns, and everybody's eating them on, during the live stream. So all this just absolutely blew out. At the end of the week, on the most shoestring budget with absolutely no goals, we had about 50,000 people had mentioned it. We had over 500,000 people, 500,000 minutes where people were sitting there watching interns do nothing except have their wind blow. We had 10 million earned media mentions, 63,000 visits, and the top speed that we got to was 140 miles an hour. So this is truly, when people talk about social media, it's a lot of tactics of, oh, we're going to do Facebook, we're going to do Twitter, we're going to do all this. This is a social media campaign because it actually got people to talk about things or talk about an event that we're doing. And I don't know if Tornado Week actually had better ratings. I think they did. But I know that they were beyond pleased, and we can't wait to do this again next year, where we're gonna do it a lot bigger. So another example, I know that we're running pretty close to the end, so I'm going to breeze through this, is for racetrack. Did anybody get free coffee last week? Sweet. Did you pay for it?
No, but it wasn't me personally, but like, what they're doing for coffee, my mom went to racetrack like every day. Free coffee.
Another, the gist of it was racetrack sells coffee. They sell gas, but they want to sell more coffee because their margins are going to be a lot better on coffee. So they came to us and they said, how can we amplify Free Coffee Week through non-traditional media? What the heck is non-traditional media? I don't know. So we put together a plan basically using Facebook. Because we know these people love coffee. We know a lot of these people are on Facebook. What can we do? All we did, it's the simplest thing in the whole world. We created an image that says it's Free Coffee Week. Put it on Facebook, put some paid media behind it, and we had hundreds, well, I think it was this one, 817 people shared it. So this is social media at work. One of those 817 people, this is just an example, is Cassandra. Cassandra has 619 friends. She sees it, she shares it with her 619 friends. And take those thousands and thousands of shares, extrapolate across all those that say have an average of 100 to 600 friends, and all of a sudden, we had this social media storm of people sharing this picture about Free Coffee Week. So they hit 25,000, we ran some mobile media. At the end, again, on a very, very shoestring budget, we had over 500,000 people reached through this one very simple Facebook campaign. If they wanted to buy those equivalent 500,000 through TV or through traditional methods, they'd be talking tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the Free Coffee Week was a hashtag that we used for that. And a funny little story here is Mindy, somebody that works with us, actually went in and walked out with 4 coffees on her own. So this was her when she was getting her coffee. So last example, this is really fun, is have you guys seen the Dodge ads with Anchorman and Will Ferrell? So Dodge Durango sales have gone up 50% since Will Ferrell and the partnership with Anchorman. We did not work on this campaign. I wish I could take credit for it. But these are some ads that they posted on Reddit. And Reddit is a really, really niche community. And they do not like ads. They hate ads, and they're going to make fun of ads. These guys nailed it. I think Wyden Kennedy did this one. But they had an ad up here that says, don't press that lower button to win a Dodge Durango. And here's Will Ferrell saying, don't listen to the top button. This is the #1 button. When you click on this, it takes you to this contest. It's the world's greatest online endurance event. And it says Ron Burgundy has touched the lives of millions. Now millions will touch him. The whole shtick of this campaign is you log in with Facebook or Twitter, and you, using your mouse, touch Ron Burgundy. And see how long you can sit there and touch him. And there are people, I don't think you can read it up there, there are people that have sat there for thousands of seconds with their mouse held down, just touching this. Upon doing so, what you're doing is after you hook it up with Facebook or Twitter, it is sharing that you've touched Ron Burgundy for X amount of time, and it's simple as that, as you are telling your friends that you have touched Ron Burgundy. It's scary simple, but it appears to be working from what I can tell. So, those were some new ideas. Now I want to focus a little bit more on you guys and the new experience, and want to work in social and digital marketing. And some, Debbie had asked, and Mon asked, what are some things that you guys can concentrate on now if you want to get into anything marketing, social, communications related? And I'm a nerd, so I pulled out some very weird things that others might think of, but one of the big things is, or would be, analytics. And we're always thinking about the message first, but what's equally as important these days is what's behind the message of after something happened, or even before something happened, looking at or to somehow prove that that is the right way to do it. So every platform, every social media platform, every app is going to come with an analytics package or a dashboard to show you what is happening or what could be happening. So I would encourage you, even if you aren't math people and you do enjoy the idea of social media or enjoy the idea of marketing, is to study up or get some, you can't really get interest in analytics though, because it is a really strong player, and everybody at Vert, regardless of their discipline, will be looking at analytics and numbers at some point. So, second thing is, and I said this at the very beginning, is think mobily. And going back to that number of 162.9 million, is our parents never had to think about that. And I promise you, they're not sitting around thinking about this kind of stuff. But if I watch my niece, everything my niece does is on a touch interface. So the games that she plays will be on an iPad. The communication that she sees will be on an iPhone. They will have no concept of non-touch based devices. So the content that you're writing, make sure it's shareable and can be consumed on mobile devices. The videos that you guys are producing, make sure that they can be encoded or sized and streamed on mobile devices. The visuals that you're creating, pay very close attention to how it looks when they're shared or consumed on mobile devices. Because, like I said at the beginning, this is the single biggest trend to watch out for, is to prep ourselves. In 10 years, digital is mobile. I promise you, it will be mobile. It's not going to go back the other way. It's going to be more devices and more people on the internet. And kind of going along on that same vein is social is going mobile. So increasingly the time spent what we are doing on social networks will be consumed on your phones. Does anybody not use a laptop or a desktop? Do we have any mobile-only people?
At home.
At home you don't get on a desktop? Why?
Laptop died.
For other reasons.
A year and a half ago, I mean.
Yeah.
We didn't
I
even
have to
between
go
phones and
snag somebody
iPads.
else's.
And in some emerging markets, in South America and Africa, people didn't even, they're almost skipping the generation of desktop computers and laptops. But now, because a mobile device, you pull out a phone, you have no wires, no connection, is the ease of getting on mobile is so great that mobile adoption is going to be like out the wazoo. Third thing is it's about storytelling. And I wish somebody would have told me this like in kindergarten, like when you're sitting there listening to different stories of how important it is to just tell a story. And for clients that we talk to, they do not like to be sold to. They like to hear stories about their brand, about how we can solve their problems, or how we can use this tactic to increase their brand awareness. But the idea of selling things in is simply about telling stories. So this is an example. Nike does a great job of being able to tell stories in different formats, whether it's 140 characters or text, or it's through long-form content online, or a lot of their different hats. Red Bull would be equally great examples. Look at what Red Bull is doing and some of the people that they hire. All they're doing is just highlighting how cool these people are and some of the amazing experiences they have. So the three things that I would focus on as macro trends: analytics, telling relevant stories, and focusing on mobile. And those three things are going to win out. If somebody came into Vert tomorrow and say, I can do these things really, really well, they can prove it to me, heck yeah, that's what we want right now. Bless you.
Thank you.
So that doesn't really mean anything. So here are a couple examples of, in a couple years or a year or whenever, if you're looking for internships now, how do I actually get that job? And
That's fantastic.
Let's take that picture.
I actually did that on video.
On YouTube.
There are those pictures.
I should have told them before this. So the first thing I can attest is when I was in school, I went to the New Media Institute, and I learned more in that program than I did in my major. And knowing what I know about Pegasus and just what I see on your website and what you guys are striving to do is, for those non-Pegasus members, and this is not a shallow plug by any means, is get involved in something that is outside your comfort zone. So you're a communications major, cool, you're on that path, but you have to get outside and go somewhere else where there's something else going on. And so Pegasus would be a great example, and look what you have as the boss. So, second thing to do, read these, know these. So in order to tell relevant stories to potential employers, you need to be relevant. The only way to stay relevant is to know what's going on now, not what happened a year ago or 2 years ago. Media and digital changes daily, it really does. And the lines are blurring between traditional and digital media outlets. So I actually get a lot of my news from Business Insider because they can report it so fast. Excuse me. Ad Age obviously is good on the digital front. Mashable. If you want to stay relevant for anything advertising communications related, Mashable is a really good go-to source. And then Smashing Magazine is, we encourage everybody to read and submit articles to Smashing because they're the go-to for code development, a lot of creative design. So here are a couple examples of, hold on 1 second. This is Hank, and I'll tell you how Hank actually got a job. And Hank sent me an email about 4 years ago with this headline. And it said, Atlanta has 32 streets labeled Peachtree. And I'm a heavy email user. I probably get 200-300 emails a day, just like most of you guys. And I love to delete emails because then I have this fresh thinking in my mind when I'm deleting emails. So to get through, Hank was pretty damn creative and came up with this headline. I was like, what is it? Who is this guy, and why is he telling me there are 32 streets in Atlanta? That was his ploy to get through. And his introductory paragraph was basically, he doesn't live in Atlanta, he's from Virginia, he wants to move here, and he wants to work at an advertising agency. operations. It's like, wow, this is a really bold move on this behalf. So we hired Hank after some interviews, and now he is a strategic planner at the Martin Agency working on Walmart. So gigantic brand, probably responsible for spending tens of millions of dollars every year, and he's only 24, 25 years old. So it was a very simple email. I'm not saying that you should write an email with that headline, but it's getting in the headspace of whoever you're going to be talking to. So this is an even better story. I'll preface it with this. I got a box from FedEx like 2 or 3 months ago from the Atlanta Port Authority. And I looked at it. I said, wait a minute, Atlanta doesn't have a port authority, do we? We don't.
Yes, we do.
We do?
Yes, we do.
Where?
I don't know, but it's here.
We don't have a
It
port.
actually, it was, I remember hearing about it. I think Mayor Jackson was the mayor, and that something was going on in Savannah.
Yep.
And it was a cooperative between Atlanta and Savannah. And so they established it in Fort Worth.
That's so funny. In my mind, I didn't think it had existed. So I got this in the mail, which is if you can see it here, it's a message in the bottle, right? And I never get mail. I never get mail. And I open this thing. And this is what it says. He says, "Kind Samaritan, I have been marooned on a desolate and uncreative island somewhere in the middle of corporate world USA. The natives wish to do me harm by way of tedious tasks, erroneous errands, and imagination suppression. Previously, I was a navigator on a flagship that embodied creativity, dynamic campaigns, and ahead-of-the-curve thinking. I'm hoping to rejoin creative society. If your needs ever necessitate an account manager, please consider sending a lifeboat by way of electronic mail. Graciously, Captain." And he said, "P.S. enclosed is a flash drive containing my previous coordinates for further rescue consideration." I took this thing and I showed it to every single person at Vert. I went home and I talked about it. I told my parents about it. We didn't hire this guy. Which is, so that's the bad thing, that's the artist. But think about a different or creative way, because a simple email and a simple phone call is not going to cut through the clutter of getting into any potential job. So this isn't the trick, but it's how, again, joining Pegasus, getting out of your comfort zone to go try something a little bit different. Get out of your comfort zone and try and talk to these people in different ways. So you guys, I think you guys can actually do better than that.